Hey everybody, and welcome to the Warhammer Armies project review series. We're going to start off with the core rulebook. I already did a video very recently, I guess a few weeks ago, talking about the major differences from WAP Warhammer Armies projects from 8th edition. I might touch on a little bit of that stuff. I'm going to try to keep this video to about 5 minutes, and we are going to cover the magic, but not every spell, obviously. Now, we're keeping this at the 5-minute mark for a reason, because I think it's far too early for me to put out a review on Warhammer Armies projects and all the army books, though I'm going to do so. But they're more of first impressions and gut feelings, and I'm going to come back to the series in about 6 months, maybe a little bit longer, and see if I still agree or if I think I was wrong about my gut impressions about everything. But starting right now with this video, core rulebook, love it. As a core rule set, I can't really complain about anything. Initially, the combat resolution of the Warhammer Armies project, when there's multiple units in a combat, was something it didn't sit right with me. I felt it was a little too clunky. Felt that it took too long. But after doing it a handful of games, I'm like, oh, it's actually like once you just do your combat resolution, you make sure you put your dead models next to the units that killed them. It got pretty easy, pretty straightforward, not as clunky as I like to call it at first. And I really, really dig it. Really dig it. For movement, can't complain. You know, I gotta keep in line that I feel like I can ramble. Oh, buddy, this is already longer than I expected it to be. Okay, movement, love the changes. Unit strength matters for redirecting. It stops the nonsense of the Great Eagle and other things of previous editions, like 8th edition. So movement changes, I got no complaints or no criticisms. Magic, I thought I had no criticisms. The magic phase, I thought, was nothing but positive changes across the board. It was just the force changing, no auto failing or auto losing concentration. Big changes. Though, I never thought of it. Others were talking about this, asked what do people think about WAP. There is a criticism about the magic phase that I realized that, okay, yeah, I'm on board with. There's like something not quite right. The ability to not pick the power level of your spell, initially I thought was pretty awesome. Cast Fireball, it has 3 levels. Whichever level you get that level of a spell. You don't have to declare. With the exploding 6s and stuff like that, I just find it far too easy to get the higher level of spell. Here's my minor criticism for magic. The boosted level of the spells are too easy to attain. It's not the end of the world. It's not the worst problem. A potential change, if I'm gonna put forward one, I would never be a rules writer. Maybe you should have to declare which level of the spell you're trying to cast, or widen the gap. The boosted level of these spells is just, it seems too easy to attain. Minor criticism. If that never gets changed and it stays that way, not that big a deal. But yeah, it's something I thought about when people I was reading commenters go back and forth. I'm like, yeah, I kind of agree with that. It is a little too easy to attain the power level, the higher power levels. Okay, let's move on. Keep moving. Shooting was useless in 8th edition. Like, it was just like, other than artillery, which is good in 8. Shooting was just like the actual bow, rank and file stuff. Like, it wasn't that good. A lot of positive changes in this edition for shooting. So much so that if you skew heavy into shooting, it can be a bad time for your opponent, I think. You can just sit back and not engage in the movement phase of the game, which is my favorite part of the game. So shooting can be very heavy-handed. You can over-skew into it. But, I mean, the gentleman's agreement tends to solve that problem, right? So it's not that big a deal. I have noticed recently in games, and I want to see when I come back to the series, I have to watch all these videos again if I agree. When you balance your list a little bit more with, your anvils, your hammers, your shooting. Oh, God, this is going to be more than 5 minutes. There's nothing I can do. We're too high. Okay, when you balance your list, a little bit of shooting, a little bit of magic, a little bit of close combat, a little bit of speed, a little mobility. Whoever goes first, focuses down your opponent's shooting, and then gives you the advantage on the rest of it from there. So yeah, we're finding turn 1. Now, it might evolve the way we play, but turn 1, focus on your opponent's shooting and go from there. That's a criticism, but like, whatever, it's not that big a deal. Close combat, I'm liking a lot about that. I got no criticisms there. The changes to steadfast, and you can't use Aspiring Presence and steadfast combined. Like, I just positive changes to close combat across the board. So yeah, that's it for the rules. Okay, we could have kept this at 5 minutes if I didn't say I was going into spells. So I will quickly open this up. I'm not gonna go over every spell. I'm gonna skim through every lore. Maybe we'll aim for. No, I'm not gonna aim for 7 minutes. I'm aiming to keep this under 10. Okay, lore fire. Okay, your solid attack 'em up lore. The Kindle Flame lore attribute is a positive change, adding a little extra hits. It's a lore about damaging your opponent. The lore attribute adding more hits instead of making things a little bit easier to cast. I think it's a positive change. No criticism of lore fire. Lore of Metal. I got nothing lore of Metal. Haven't used it enough. Still think lore of Metal is doing pretty good. Lore of Life. We're seeing a lot less lore of life. That is a huge positive change. I think the change to Throne of Vines not mean like an auto-include spell. Plus, what is it? D6 plus 1 models back. Flesh Stone gets plus 3 toughness with Throne of Vines up. So you're going to get to toughness 6 for most units. Yeah, that's very, very, very doable. So lore of life, nothing but positive changes. I think I'll agree with that in a year from now. Lore of Beasts. Here's my one criticism. The lore attribute I still think is terrible. But it's just, it makes, if you target anything from the Beastman Army book, a cav, chariots, monster swarms, the difficulty of the spell is reduced by 1. Boo, it's a nothing boring attribute. It is the copy and paste attribute from 8th edition. It wasn't changed. I just find it so boring and nothing that it would have been nice to see that change to something interesting. Maybe just you get plus 1 to cast against those particular units. Other than that, Lore Beast, fantastic lore. Lore Heavens. Oh, I think Lore Heavens is interesting again. Ice Shard Blizzard with the -1 to weapon skill and Blizzard skill instead of -1 to hit. It in many situations it's still functionally the same. Yeah, I'm not. I've heard some sort of grumblings about the Ice Shard Blizzards, but like game wise, it's actually functionally very, very similar. So yeah, Lore Heaven's still pretty good. The new attribute, it's roll a die on a 6+ and a 4. Sorry, roll D6 and a 4+. So you can yeah, okay. This new attribute, Fate's Manipulation, kind of cool. I literally can't remember the old attribute. Oh, it did extra damage, you get fly or something like that, right? Yeah, the old attribute, not that great. New attribute, interesting. Nice changes in Lore Heavens. Lore of Light. Oh. I know at the time I'm going to release this video, I have like, some bat reps where I play against the Lore of Light, and they will not have gone out yet, so I got to maintain the spoilers to absolute minimum. Lore of Light, I think, works very well with the way you're playing the Warhammer Armies project. Like it just the way you're making this, the way you're playing the game, Lore of Light is just innately more interesting. So yeah, I'm loving Lore of Light. I don't think you'll see me play it anytime soon, just because it doesn't work for the armies that I want to play. But well, okay, you know what? It's a Lizardman thing. I love the way Lore of Light's working with Lizardman. I'm gonna move on. Lore of Light. I don't think there's any changes that I can recall off the top of my head, but Lore of Shadows, still a fantastic lore. Lore of Shadows is now that you can pick your spells. You want to pick Enfeebling Foe and the Withering a lot because it's a Remains in Play spell. Remains in Play spells are just really strong for hopefully killing your opponent's power dice in the next, so their next magic phase. So the ability to pick your spells innately just helps all these lores. But for Lore of Shadows, it's just oh, I've used it once, and I think that video has not gone down yet at the time I'm recording this video. But I love Lore of Shadows still. I think the lore attribute was changed. Yes, the lore attribute has been changed. Instead of like swapping with other characters, you get a little fly move. I'm gonna have a lot of fun with Lore Shadows moving forward. I think when I come back to this series and rewatch this video, I think I'm gonna agree Lore Shadows is gonna still be a very powerful and fun lore. And I think the last one, Lore of Death. Lore of Death, positive changes. So the Soul Blight, it was too good before. Nerfed down to be 1 unit. Obviously, Spirit Leech. Spirit Leech works functionally exactly the same as the 8th edition rulebook. But the 8th edition rulebook has been errated so many times over the years. The errata for 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition rulebook, the errata is as big as a phone book. It's freaking huge. One of the things in that is Spirit Leech. Even though it says direct damage, the wizard and the target roll d6 and add their unmodified leadership, and you take wounds according to the difference. Even though it says unmodified leadership, it's been errated that you do get inspiring presence, because this thing was just one-shotting monsters and certain things. It was really, really good as a signature spell. So that's something I would like to see the Spirit Leech to allow inspiring presence. That's my one criticism for the Lore of Death, because I've seen it so heavily abused in 8th edition. The change to the lore attribute, it's only a extra die and a 6 instead of a 5. Nailed it. It didn't nerf it into the ground, but still usable. Not as strong as it was. Love that. Purple Sun, I didn't even read it. Is it the same? It's probably the same. Either way, there we go. 11 minutes. Okay, so WAP review. Mostly positive changes, a few minor things I didn't even think about, but nothing to complain about with the core rules as a whole. Now I'm going to start my gut feelings, my first impressions of all the army books. Stay tuned for those. I got some strong opinions on those. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right. Engage in the comments. See you in the next video.